So, what happens after we die? Life after death is something that people have wondered for lifetimes because no one truly knows what happens to us once we're gone. One of the theories I'm going to be talking about is whether or not reincarnation is real. And reincarnation, for those of you who don't know, is basically the philosophical or religious belief of a soul rebirthing and coming back into existence on earth as a new body. And many people do believe in this concept. They believe that after we die, the soul comes back to earth as a new person entirely, or maybe even a new living thing. And I know the rebirth of a soul coming back into existence sounds a little skeptical and maybe even impossible, but with the traditional practices and the stories that I'm going to be providing you today is going to question the belief of whether reincarnation is real as a possibility, because it can convince you how maybe these practices were true in some way. And to get started, uh, ancient Egyptians had the belief that life here on earth was just a part of a lifelong journey, and it didn't just end in death. The ancient Egyptians' outlook towards death was influenced by their faith in immortality. And according to the Canadian Museum of History on Egyptian Civilization, to ensure their eternal existence, these Egyptians would pay homage to their gods during and after they died in order to continue their life here on earth. And after their death, they would mummify the bodies so that their souls could return. Um, the ancient Egyptians believed that death was merely a transition and not really a destination, and they believed that this could open the possibility of eternal happiness. They didn't necessarily believe that a soul was trapped in the mortal body after death. According to the World History of Egyptian Afterlife, uh, Egyptians would they would paint spells on the walls of the tombs, and they would attach these amulets to the bodies of those that died, so it could remind them to continue their journey and proceed on once they hit the afterworld. And they would bring food, drinks, and any household items, and would leave them on tables outside of the tomb to supply them with the soul's desires in the afterworld also. It was said that the journey of a soul to the afterworld was considered to be a dangerous journey because it was inhabited by these armed serpents or snakes. And to prepare the dead for the afterlife journey, priests would actually perform a ceremonial ritual on the mummies, which they called the opening of the mouth. And according to the American Association for Anatomy, the priests would burn incense and purify the body. Um, they would purify the body and tomb to touch the mummy with ritual objects in order to achieve the restoration of vision, speech, ability to smell, hear, and to touch. Another faith that does encompass this belief of rebirth is Buddhism. And some Buddhists believe that the actions of a person lead to the new existence of after death called the samsara. And this is basically the cycle of life, which consists of birth, growth, death, and rebirth. This religion is highly conscious of karma, and so they believe that what you put into the world is what you're going to get out of it. Reincarnation is also very popular in Hindu culture, which follow basically the same beliefs of death not defining the end of life. And according to the anthropological perspectives on death, Hinduism has a faith of that the soul is everlasting and indestructible until what they called moksha. And moksha is a Hinduism concept of liberation and release that transpires when the cycle of dying and rebirth ends. Ancient Egyptians, Hindus, and Buddhists all hold the belief that reincarnation plays an important role into the soul, living an eternal life, and the cultures and beliefs of the soul coming back into existence sounds unbelievable but not impossible because of all the traditional history and practices that surround this concept. And although we may not know for sure what happens after we die, we can always have a hope to what happens to our souls once we're gone.